Alexey, you can start.
Hi everyone, I'm Alexey Potapov and I'm a Chief Artificial General Intelligence Officer at SingularityNET. Our goal in SingularityNET is to develop a decentralized AGI, and it is done by means of creating a platform and marketplace for AI services and by developing AGI technology itself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Sabrina, CEO and co-founder at Palqee, a data governance software company specializing in AI trustworthiness, information security, and data protection. I myself am also a self-taught data scientist, strongly focusing on AI ethics, and I'm also part of the British Standards Institute, SANS-ANALIC, the European Standards Organization, and the International Standards Organization, directly involved in the drafting of new standards for artificial intelligence.
So my name is Xavier Anguera. I'm the co-founder and CTO at Elsa, Elsa Speak. It's an app to help you improve your pronunciation and communication in English. Eu sou espanhol, mas também falo português. Podem perguntar o que quiser, espanhol, português, inglês. Tenho doutoramento em processamento de sinal. Eu sou perto de Barcelona, Espanha, e pronto, estou em Lisboa, em Portugal.
Vamos então para as perguntas. Por favor, levantem a mão, digam o vosso nome e a vossa afiliação. Let's go straight to Q&A. Please raise your hand, say your name and where you're from. Any questions?
Hi, I'm Gustavo. I'm an editor at The Lancet, the medical journal. And I would like you to say, how do you think Latin American countries and companies are progressing with AI and also in the ethical perspective? Thank you.
So I can maybe answer on the ethics part. So I think in my day-to-day, I'm very much looking into, okay, how is the market currently developing from a regulatory perspective and a standards perspective? I think this time around, governments and regulators and thought leaders are very much pushing to not be behind the wave, but with the wave when it comes to regulating AI and this technology and implementing benchmarks, right? So not just in Europe or the US, I think internationally, one of the biggest challenges to implement AI is the lack of trust in the technology. And I think it's the same challenge and issue in LATAM as well. And here we are seeing different governments taking different approaches when it comes to regulating artificial intelligence. And I'm sure you all will have heard about the EU AI Act in Europe. So they are very much, they're pushing with this legislation. And then there are also already early conversations in Brazil as well. So there is a draft that is in negotiation and it's being reviewed right now. I think there is also quite a bit of criticism at the moment. But I think generally the goal with regulating AI is all about the concept of AI trustworthiness. And the key focus here is, of course, robustness, reliability, and ethics, and making sure that the technology is fair and transparent. Now, I would say, and again, this is not just in LATAM, it's internationally a challenge that with this technology, where we have the biggest opportunity in terms of implementation, such as healthcare, where we can solve perhaps some of the greatest challenges we are facing nowadays, is also one of the riskiest areas to implement it, which again then ties back into having a benchmark that gives industry leaders a reference on what does trustworthy AI look like and how can we actually implement it in a way that it's fair, transparent, and reliable.
Yeah, maybe I can add what is the way of SingularityNET regarding transparency and ethics and so on. So basically, we believe that the creation of AGI and, of course, AI algorithms as well should be decentralized. So actually, blockchain can help solving these issues when you have a community who can vote for different decisions and who can also control how biases in the training data are distributed. So when you have not just one entity who is controlling these AI algorithms, but you have the community-driven development, then it will at least partly solve some risks regarding ethics and so on. So there is also another component to this, which is in the technology itself, because deep neural networks trained on some data will just reproduce this data, so in some forms of recombination, so they can be controlled by feeding the corresponding data, but they are still not transparent and controllable well enough. So we take more care about symbolic components which can be say reviewed in a better way. So if you have a neural symbolic integration with symbolic components which are transferable and interpretable, then it also can solve different issues regarding risks and ethics. And of course, the decentralized development itself is very important. And in SingularityNET, for example, we have tips all over the world, including Brazil as well, by the way.
So I'll focus on the first part of the question about AI in South America, and I'll tell you my view on it. I think, so pandemic brought in that everybody was at home and there was a lot of opportunities for people to work remotely, right? That opened up that people that are intelligent enough and, let's say, they started working for companies that are outside of their countries, right? So I know a few people that are actually working for very top organizations that are from Brazil, are from Mexico, are from Argentina. So that really, it's not a problem anymore. Infrastructure is there. I mean, network, there is fiber in many places, not everywhere, but many places. There is access to APIs, there is access to compute. Really, like in places like in Europe or even US, there is even many, what they call now GPU poor people that are as poor, GPU poor as everybody anywhere, right? So it's a matter of finding the means, finding the credits, finding the means to work on it, and that's it, right? If we're thinking of universities where these people have to be trained, I can imagine there is some differences, but I see them getting smaller and smaller. I mean, actually, I was listening to some talk from NVIDIA saying that some university in Brazil now, in some areas, they are getting lots of funding to get their clusters and to get, so that students don't need to use, and there is credits again, as I said, right? So I think that the horizon is very nice. AI has been democratized in a way that you can use all these tools. If you learn about them and you know how to use them, you can build great stuff, and then you can work for, build your own thing or work outside.
Let's go to our next question. Please raise your hand.
Hi, my name is Leandro. I'm from startups.com.br. Question is about, there's a lot of noise, a lot of buzz around AI now these days. And even a lot of founders, they know they have to get AI into their business, but they still don't know how to do it. And there's also a lot of talk about AGI, and they don't know when this is going to happen. And there's talk about AI, generative AI, and then general AI. So how can they remove themselves for all this noise, this buzz, and really do something that can be impactful for their businesses, and not only get into because it's cool to do that?
Let me start now. So yes, and every single startup now wants to put AI somewhere in their title or their description so that they will look better, right? That's been a few years that's happening, and investors sort of go to those and, oh yeah, look, this is going to be the next big thing, right? I think you need to dig deeper. So as investors are becoming a little bit more clever, a little bit more informed, and are able to look to see what's really under the hood, under the carpet. And as startup founders, also have been learning or have to learn how to use AI in a way that is effective. Okay, AI, it's an amazing tool, Gen AI, all the different components, an amazing tool to double, triple, quadruple, 10x your capacity to do things. It's not going to do it all good for you. I mean, I would say, I don't know, to give a number, 80% of there. Okay, so if you need some work, you put it, you make a prompt, you do a fine tuning, you put a model, whatever it is, it's going to get you 80% there. I always think that you always need to go and check that things are valid. Don't just ship. Don't just put some, hey, make me a marketing campaign and just ship it, because things can happen, right? But it is able to get those founders that they do need the hands, or they do need the people, and they don't have the funding to get them, to get far and to make their product unique, because they can change their product in a matter of days versus big companies that they're competing to, that they have to move much slower because they already have so many clients. They cannot just rip it all down and put up a new product, right? So yeah, it has advantages, but again, as I said, founders need to educate themselves on how to use those things.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's not just a buzz, and I have had just recently opposite examples when some CEO asks, well, we have this problem, we want to solve it, how should we do this? And they describe their problems, and I say, look, it can be easily solved by ChatGPT. They replied, really? Is it not just a buzz? No, your problem is really simple and can be solved by ChatGPT or some other LLM depending on circumstances. So yes, we need to not follow hype too much, and we should understand what can be done and what can not be done, and people starting to understand it better and better. But the only answer is to educate themselves. So you need to learn what can be done with these tools. So you should have a trusted person who can describe this to you. Yeah, it's not just noise, but we should be careful what we should trust in this domain and what we cannot trust, and apply this technology carefully for the sake of the business. Yeah.
Let's go to our next question. Please raise your hands. Vamos à próxima pergunta.
Hi, my name is Mauricio Mendes from Rede TV Network, and I'm studying a lot of APIs and apps like we use AI. So when we are gonna get the AGI surpasses the human mind, and then what? Just a tricky question. Easy for answer.
I'm going to start with this one. So from an AI trustworthiness perspective, it's a very intriguing question. And I guess, also the title Future of AI, what does it actually mean? Because a lot happens within 3 months, and then let alone in a year or 3 years. We don't know exactly when the whole point of singularity is going to happen. Is it within the next couple of years, within the next 50 years or so? But the way I see it is right now, the trust concerns are very much about AI ethics, right? So here you're talking about what is the impact this technology can have on the fundamental rights and freedoms of individuals. What I see once we achieve AGI is that we're reaching the next stage, and here we're entering AI morality. So right now we are asking the questions, what's the impact? But with AI morality, we will be asking, okay, what are good and bad decisions? How does it look like in different countries, in different cultures, in different scenarios? This in its own is a massive topic to discuss. I think there are a lot of people right now that are ripping their hairs out and think about, okay, how's that going to look like while you guys are building this technology, I guess. And so I think for the foreseeable future, the main challenge and problem we're focusing on is AI ethics. That's the one we are focusing right now on. But I think as we are entering the era of potential AGI and seeing how well it's able to actually make decisions and do things on its own and becoming smarter than us, how do we manage AI morality? And I think that's a big question. What does good or bad mean in different countries, different cultures, and different contexts?
Go ahead.
I think in many ways we already reached what we want to call AGI. And I say it in the way, I know that we haven't, nobody went out there and say, people, we reached AGI. But there is many tasks where the computers are actually doing better than we are. And there is tasks like, I don't know, voice transcription, for example, that the word error rate for clean speech, and I'm from this area, right? The number of errors for speech that is well recorded is way lower than if a human transcriber would try to listen to it and transcribe it. And there is many other tasks like that, right? For example, in our company at Elsa, as I said, we teach communication in English, right? So in our analysis that we have with our machine learning technology, we can get an analysis of how well you speak that is far more consistent than if you went to different teachers and they would tell you different things. So we can actually give our students something that is consistently across time, telling them what they're doing and measuring how they're doing. And another thing, I mean, we implemented last year when LLM technology came out, ChatGPT, we implemented our conversational AI technology, which allows the students to have a conversation with the app, with the bot, about whatever they want, and then they get evaluated, right? I'm always impressed the kind of conversations I can have with my app. I mean, it's incredible how far this has become. Now, tell me, is that AGI? Is that not? Well, maybe we need to wait for that person that comes up and said, hey, humanity, we reached AGI.
Yeah, so, well, after AGI, there will be definitely ASI, so artificial superintelligence, and it will arrive quite fast. Because it's quite simple for AGI to surpass humans a little bit just by adding more computing power. So the question is how far it will go further. But I would like to say that AGI is not a magic, and there are just physical and mathematical limitations. And if you are playing a game with a lot of randomness, then AGI will not do much better than humans. Because, for example, for weather forecasting, so you cannot forecast weather not because we are not smart enough, but because trajectories in a phase space are going exponentially fast from each other, and you just cannot do this much better. So AGI is not magic, and we don't precisely know how far AGI will be on a human level in one domain and another. And I would also say that AGI is, well, right now GPUs and AI are very inefficient in terms of how they consume energy, and human brains are very efficient in this. Of course, we can say that when time passes and AGI develops some chips, some other principles for building computational devices, or it will invent say, a thermonuclear synthesis, which will be very efficient, and energy will be very cheap, so it will be not the problem. But in at least short term, humans will still be very, very valuable as computational devices, because we can do a lot of stuff. But what I would like to say is that it's not we cannot predict this, because it's the question to physics. We don't know this physics yet. And how it will turn out, it's difficult to predict. But what is important is not what will happen after this, but how we approach this point. So if we approach it in one way, then the future can be dystopian. If we approach it in another way, it can become a more utopian. So I would focus on the question how we are approaching AGI, rather than speculating on what will happen after this, because what will happen after this depends on what we are doing now.
Let's go to our next question there. Please say your name and say where you're from.
Morning, I'm Claudio from Portal Administradores, and Javier, you are based in Europe, where most of the regulations on AI are coming right now, and it is in the middle point between the East, where censorship seems to be the rule, and the East, where all freedom, that's not good also. And Alexey talks about possible decentralization using blockchain, and Sabrina speaks about the ethics of all of this. So my question is, how can, in this very huge options that we have now in the world, how can a company or a person using AI be part of this future that Alexey says it can be built for our actions in the present?
Well, as for our company, I believe it's quite simple, because we are moving progressively towards decentralization and community voting, so you can always become a part of this process. But if you don't just vote for one or another decision, but you want to participate in this more substantially, then I believe it is necessary to study modern AI and collaborate on this. Or maybe I misunderstood your question.
Yeah, I think maybe to add to this, I mean, let's not forget, so artificial intelligence is the new technology, right? But it's the means to solve a problem. So no matter if it was prior to AI or with AI now, the starting point, I think, regardless whether you're a corporate, an enterprise, or a startup, is you start with wanting to solve a problem. And then you're assessing, okay, what's the best way to solve this problem? And could artificial intelligence help me achieve that? What are the tools out there that are already existing? What are the ways and how I can maybe manipulate existing methods to make it work for my use case? And then, of course, as part of that, you also ask the questions, okay, what is the potential impact, again, on the fundamental rights and freedoms of individuals? So if we bring this back, for instance, to healthcare, law enforcement, finance, education, there are still so many problems to be solved. There is still this whole point, how can we decentralize this to give access to finance for everyone, to give education to everyone? Again, AI offers that opportunity, and it's a tool, it's a means that we have at our hands that we can use to achieve that. And so I would always say, what's the starting point? What's the problem you're solving in the industry you're operating in? What are the tools you need? And then, of course, what skills do you need to be able to implement that? And I think, yeah, I always would assess it from that angle.
I think everybody's afraid of new stuff they don't understand. And they were afraid of teller machines, right, in the 60s, where they were, oh, we're going to lose our jobs. So I think it's good in some way that politicians sit down and think about the goods and the bads of anything that comes out and is disruptive, like AI has been there for many years, right? But we're talking about the latest developments where it looks like now you can create your own self and look like your own self and sound like your own self and then trick anybody else. But as well as, you know, your neighbor can create somebody that looks like you and trick somebody else, right? So bad actors are there, they will be there, they will not follow rules. So the question here is, how do we get the technology to advance, to be helpful to people on the good causes and avoid that bad actors, which we'll always try, can actually or are reduced, right? Crime is never something that we can kill, but we can eradicate, but we can reduce it.
Let's go to our last question.
Thank you. So Angel Cisneros from Mexico. I'm an exited founder and now investor in AI, right? So this is kind of technical for me, for my partner. Based on the precedent from algorithms like GPT-4 that become lazy, even some LLMs that have shown tendencies that become depressed. Do you think that AGI will at some point require psychological maintenance treatment, like a person goes to therapy? So that's the question.
Would you like to start?
I'll answer the obvious and then I'll let you elaborate. I mean, look, we're talking about bits here, right? Bits going up and down, and then those are grouped into more bigger groups of bits. So I'm thinking every company, every startup, in every organization, you first launch a product to see whether the product has some validity with the customers, right? And you don't think about cost. And this is what I can assume the people that created GPT-4, OpenAI did, right? They launched something, put lots of machines, okay, let's do it. And then once they said, oh, so many people using it, oh, they're paying for it, oh, now, okay, how can we optimize it? Right? And that's when the same model started saying, oh, once we optimize it, okay, everything seems good, but some parts of it started becoming not like before. Not because they got lazy or they got depressed or people asking to them. No, it's because, you know, after the fact. Another option could be, I mean, not in there, right, is that, okay, it represents, a model represents what the average tone of people is, that the data that they feed into it. So if we are talking about a model that they are feeding in the data from the users, the average of the users will bias it. So, you know, this is two options. I'm inclined to the first one, but maybe the second one, you know, maybe we are all depressed. So we all need to go to the shrink.
Yeah, so I had to process this question a little bit and be like, okay, how am I going to approach this? So I mean, I don't know if, you know, you're dealing with a depressed AI and whether, you know, you would need to have some sort of psychologist. I would more look at it from a maintenance perspective, right? Just like how nowadays we need to maintain our technologies, our products, and make sure they perform consistently over time. One of the key challenges we are facing nowadays is reliability in an AI system. And I would want to be sure that in whatever industry I'm using it, but specifically high-risk areas, that it is reliable, that even if the AI learns over time and adapts and becomes better in its outputs, it doesn't become depressed or emotional and suddenly is not able to give me a simple answer because I need to give it support. So I think here you need to have mechanisms in place, monitoring solutions that are able to identify and track changes in the behavior of your AI system. And just like how you would deal with bugs nowadays, you would get that as triggers to then identify, okay, do I need to adjust my systems to make sure it performs consistently over a set period of time. The challenge with that right now is, and I think here's where you're entering explainable AI, is it's still a fairly new segment. And even with new regulations on the horizon, new standards coming out, they all require essentially businesses to implement sort of tools and measures that allow you to do that. And there are a variety of companies working in this space, including ourselves, to offer and build these tools. But it's not like that there is a variety of products available. They're being also developed right now as AI continues to develop. So my answer to that would be possible, yes, for sure. But in that case, the solution is let's implement and have measures that allow us to monitor the AI system and ensure reliability, because that's what you want. That's in an AI system. You don't want it to become emotional. You want it to perform to help you solve your problem, right? So.
Oh, well, on the one hand, I agree with what was said already, but actually it's a little bit more complicated when we are talking about AGI. It's difficult to say about subjective feeling of emotions, so I would just suppose that if a system is acting precisely like it is having emotions, then we suppose, okay, let's suppose it has these emotions. So when we consider just AI systems which should perform some tasks, it's narrow AI, and it's absolutely about reliability. But when we want these systems to be more and more general, we either need to train them on a huge amount of data, and what is more important is that we want them not just to solve particular problems. We want them to be more autonomous in solving them, to communicate with people. And in this sense, we want them to be perceived naturally by ourselves. We don't want them to act as robots from old movies. We want to communicate to them naturally for us. And that's why we want to train them on the corresponding data, or explicitly introduce some emotional subsystems, like in cognitive architectures. For example, OpenCog cognitive architecture utilizes OpenPsy model of emotions, and other cognitive architectures may do something like this as well. So it is really the case that the future systems will show more and more emotions. At first, they may be just like emulation of them in terms of well, ChatGPT or other LLMs, they are not really thinking. They perform bottom-up processing and prediction of the next token. They don't have cognitive cycles or whatever. They are computationally different from how it is happening in our brains. But if we consider the system which will be autonomous and which will act as it has emotions, we should say that yes, it has these emotions, and it will really happen because we want these systems to be autonomous and to act within our society. So yes, it is quite possible that we will need to go beyond just reliability of the systems, and will have a sort of AI psychologist or something like this.
We actually are 10 minutes over time, so thank you all for being here. Do you have anything else to say? Do you want to share? Thank you.